Elizabeth Kinney from Tranmere. Have you read about this?
Go on.
She's a mother of 4. I think she's a nurse, and she gets beaten up by her boyfriend. He beats her up. She goes to the hospital, and she texts someone, a buddy of hers, a friend of hers, a girlfriend of hers, and describes the man who beat her up and sent her to the hospital as a, quote, faggot. It's a faggot. Mm-hmm. And she's arrested and convicted of a hate crime. The guy who beat her up is not arrested or convicted. And then she goes through this whole kabuki, which is now required, where she prostrates herself before the judge. I'm sorry, it was not a homophobic rant. By the way, you're allowed to be homophobic if you want in a free country. You can have any view you want. But no, because she used the word, she's arrested, and the guy who punched her in the face was not. That story tells you everything.
Well, I don't know that story. If it's exactly
Daily Mail, baby.
Okay.
Pictures of her and everything.
Not doubting it. I'm just saying I need to look into it. But if that is how you've told it, obviously it's ridiculous.
Would you say the word on camera?
No.
Why?
Because
you don't want to get arrested, do you?
It doesn't want to be arrested.
Because it's so harmful to people?
No.
Is it like gay bashing? What's wrong with that?
No, actually, my whole issue with the whole trans debate, for example, is you don't need to slide into actually saying drug.
All right, let's actually discuss what is happening here. Now, the interesting thing is that I can't say the word faggot either. And this is because I'm on YouTube, and if I say it, then there's bots that immediately detect it based on the algorithm. They demonetize the video. So I would never say that the platform has free speech. Like, I wouldn't defend the platform. Like, I wouldn't claim that this is normal or pretend that it's a good thing in order to crack down on people for using a word regardless of the context. The difference, however, is that Piers Morgan defends his nation. Like, he actually believes that, no, this is a good thing. Like, you should not be able to say homophobic slurs. And this is when I come in and I say, well, hold on a little bit. Human language doesn't actually work this way. Human language is not just built around words. It is built on context, body language, the inflection of one's voice, how you say it, where you say it, on whom do you say it. And then there are certain cases where, by the way, it's actually required to insult someone. Like, if I had my daughter beaten up by a person, then when I would refer to that person, I would find out the thing that genuinely gets under their skin, the thing that would actually do as much harm to them as possible, and use that framing. Because that's the appropriate situation where you must insult someone. Does it mean that, if a woman calls someone a virgin loser for, being a creep and hitting on her girlfriend, does that mean that she hates every man on the planet? No, like, it means that in that scenario, like, she would think of an insult that would actually get to him and use that insult as a way of doing verbal abuse. And sometimes, again, like, there are situations where verbal abuse is mandatory, and if you don't do it, you're a fucking loser. Yeah, like, if you're walking on the street and someone grabs your wife by her ass, you need to perform at least verbal abuse so it doesn't escalate any further. Like, again, do we have to understand how humanity works? Because you have these people in the academia, which basically decided for the rest of us, like, no, actually, in a society, there is no situation for verbal abuse. So, like, even if you're in traffic, and let's say a person is texting while driving, and it almost kills you, it's still not acceptable in that situation to start cursing and hurling some slurs. And it's like, well, hold on a little bit. Like, that's kind of ridiculous, isn't it? And then to pretend that, no, actually, we still have free speech. And you have Tucker Carlson basically pointing out that Piers Morgan is incapable of saying faggot, regardless of context. Because the context wouldn't be like him trying to use it against a gay person as a slur. The context would be like, okay, well, if your country has free speech, as you claim, then say it. Don't say it towards a gay person, right? Don't say it in a harmful way. Just say the word. And he can't do it. And by the way, this is like specific to the Anglosphere. It doesn't exist anywhere else on Earth. What I mean by this, like the banning of a word regardless of context. And the current slurs aren't specific to our generation. Like, before I was born, Americans weren't able to say fuck on TV. And it was literally like the same principle. Like, you wouldn't be able to say fuck regardless of context. Like, even if you are reporting the news and it was like, well, this guy said fuck when he was arrested, you still weren't able to say it on air. And so they had to play this childish game where they would say the F word. And it's kind of funny because, like, the person saying the F word in their head, they're thinking of fuck, right? The person hearing it knows what the other person is talking about, but it's like this extremely childish, puerile, infantile game where we have to pretend that, well, you know, we're civilized and we can't say the word because it's got like magical meanings. And it's the same thing with gamer words right now. You know, people say the N-word. So, for instance, you can have like, this guy was canceled for saying the N-word, and you have to report it as news, right? And you can't just say it. Like, you have to pretend that, no, it's the N-word, like, it's got this mystical energy, this mystical power. So, like, well, hold on a little bit, like, the context in which it's said is different than, like, a guy saying it to a black person. Like, if it's a news anchor, and he's reporting the news anchor knows what he's talking about, the people hearing it know what they're talking about, and they also have, like, this racialized context. Like, if you're born from a certain aristocratic stock, right, like, if you're an American that's born in the ghetto, and you have, like, the correct pedigree and skin color, then you can use the word. If you're an American that does bootsex, you can say the slur. But if you're everyone else, it's, like, forbidden. And this is interesting, like, allegedly, right? Like, the words are harmful and bigoted. But a certain class of people is allowed to use them, and they want to use them, despite being harmful and bigoted. How does that work? You know, like, for instance, I wouldn't like if someone was to call my mother a whore. Like, that would be a genuine insult, right? Is it something that I would use while casually speaking with my mom? Or would my mom refer to herself as such while talking to me? Like, of course not. Because the word, like, legitimately is an insult, legitimately is harmful. No one would use that. But for some reason, we're told that these other words that Piers Morgan can't use, and the British government apparently would even go on and arrest people for using them, are so harmful, but at the same time, some people can use them. And there are situations where they use them in entertainment, like rap, and then someone sang the lyrics, and because they sang the lyrics that were allowed by a person and they weren't part of the correct pedigree, they got arrested. And this is exactly why Tucker Carlson is pointing out the ridiculous nature of it. It's batshit insane. And Piers Morgan cannot defend that. And to be honest, he shouldn't. Especially after he quit Good Morning Britain because of political correctness. Now, I understand where he is coming from, right? Like, he's not from a free country. As Tucker Carlson pointed out, like, people actually get persecuted in England if you behave in a certain way that the government doesn't want you to behave. And obviously, it's all about control. Like, if you normalize the idea that you can control certain words that people speak, then you normalize the idea that government can control everything about a person's life. And the listener understands why Piers Morgan can't say it. And it's not because he would get arrested. Like, let's be honest, if the British government didn't arrest J.K. Rowling, they probably wouldn't have arrested Piers Morgan. But he would lose sponsorships, he may lose his business, he may lose his ability to find other people willing to work with him. So people understand this. So, like, it would have been much more honest for Piers to come up and say, look, Tucker, I understand where you're coming from. I'm not the one making these rules. And then he has to play both sides, you know? He has to appeal to his fan base if he wants to keep his job and businesses. Because, like, let's be honest, you know, Piers Morgan is not a revolutionary. Like, he's not the man fighting to change the culture, and he's probably not the man that fought to bring the culture. He is like the leaf with the wind. Wherever the wind blows, he's going to be like that. And so, when you understand this, you gotta understand, like, he's not going to be on Tucker's side, but he doesn't have to be on the political correct side either. Like, he can say something like, I don't make the rules. I understand that while some people may have been well-meaning in order to bring political correctness to protect marginalized groups, it is true that maybe we have gone too far and maybe some conversations should be done about this, and I thank you for bringing it up to our attention, because like most people in my country probably don't know about these cases, blah 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 blah. And he would have walked away much more clean than he walked out from this. Obviously, in the eyes of right-wingers, he would still not be clean enough, right? Because like people would expect a journalist to actually stand for freedom of expression and freedom of speech, at least in theory. But much more better than to just deny, hand-wave the issue, pretend that it doesn't exist, use these leftist tactics of, oh, I don't know what the story is about, oh, I haven't read, oh, I live in England and I am a news anchor and I talk about these things all the time, but I've never heard something like this. Come on. You know, like, it's absolutely ridiculous, and the times are indeed changing. There will still be political correctness, but like a lot of the things that were politically incorrect 6 years ago will be okay to be said now, and there's going to be other taboos. And to be caught in this scenario where you're pretty much like defending a horrible thing that happened to a woman, and you can't just say, no, that's actually wrong and maybe we have gone too far, makes you look like a clown. Let me know what you guys think though, and as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.